Tell Me More podcast is being recorded on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures. Welcome to Tell Me More, where we have conversations about the good, the bad and the real. I'm your host, Olivia Molly Rogers. In 2015, Carrie Bickmore won a Logie for the most popular personality on Australian television. During her moving acceptance speech, Carrie put on a blue beanie to raise awareness for brain cancer. Little did she know that after this moment, she would go on to raise $25 million for brain cancer research. Carrie is well known for co-hosting the project for many years, and she currently co-hosts her own radio program, The Carrie and Tommy Show. But today, we are here to talk to her about Carrie's Beanies for brain cancer and how much this important cause means to her. Carrie, thank you so much for joining me. It's so nice to have you here. I would love for you to start by telling me how you would describe yourself to a complete stranger.
Emotional. Sorry, is this somebody that I want them to like me? I mean, if you're asking me to describe myself, it would be emotional, passionate, the life of a party, and a lot more complicated than I seem, I think.
That's a really good answer. I like that.
I probably wouldn't tell that to the stranger on the street though.
What about in terms of what you do for work?
Yeah, it's interesting because for so long I was defined by being the host of the project, and now I'm the host of the Carrie and Tommy radio show with Tommy. But I do so many other things as well. Now I often just say I work in media.
Yeah.
I just keep it quite generic. And there's a whole younger generation that I don't think ever saw me on the project, or they say to me, oh my God, like when I was little, I watched you on the project, and I look at them thinking, God, that makes me so old. I remember interviewing Troy Sivan once, and he came on and he was like, oh my God, when I was a little kid, I used to watch you on Rove, and I'd always thought we were like peers. And I was like, oh no. I'm old, you're young, and I'm that person that you used to watch when you were little, and I'm the old woman that has been on TV for 20 years.
Hardly an old woman.
But yeah.
You are such a household name though. I feel like it would be quite rare that people would ask what you do for work.
Sometimes it's really weird because the older generation know me from the project and younger people know me from the radio show. So it's a real split where they know me from, and often they don't know the other job that I do. So, I'll say, oh, did you just watch me on the project? And they'll look at me blankly and I realise, no, it's because they listen to me in the afternoon, and vice versa. Some people just never have watched TV because they're a different generation.
They're just streaming everything.
So, yeah.
How long's it been now since you finished up on the project?
It has been nearly 2.5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
God, that's gone fast.
It's crazy. It has gone fast. Yeah.
Now, before we get into the real nitty-gritty stuff, I'm going to start with some rapid-fire questions.
Great.
Nothing too serious. Heels or sneakers?
My want is for heels, but my necessity now is for sneakers. I spent so much of my first 30 years of my life in heels that I have bunions, and so now I have to wear sneakers all the time, everywhere, hence why I'm wearing them today. And I think from years of dancing, and I was, I often look at young girls now that go out in hoodies and sneakers like to a bar or a club, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I was in a tiny little top with a little skirt on with these ridiculous heels clobbering around the streets, and now you guys get to go out in your sneakers. This is smart.
It's so unfair.
Crazy. It's so unfair.
Go-to coffee order?
Strong skinny cap.
Adelaide or Melbourne?
Well, you have to add in Perth as well, because I was born in Adelaide, hence why my daughter's name is Adelaide. Mm-hmm. But then I lived for a brief amount of time in Colorado, and then I moved to Perth, and I grew up in Perth from when I was about 5 to 21. And then I moved to Melbourne.
Okay.
And so they used to joke on the project all the time with me, because there'd be people in the audience and I'd say, where are you from? And they'd go Adelaide. I'd go, my hometown. And then someone would say Perth. And I'd go, my hometown. And they'd go Melbourne. And I'd go, my hometown. And they're like, you're from everywhere, Carrie. But I do feel like I've lived different parts of my life, and I have different memories and different attachments to different parts. So I don't know. Where would I say? And it took me a long time to feel like Melbourne was home. Like it took me, and I mean this quite seriously, maybe a decade.
Wow.
Yeah, I felt like because I'd grown up with blue sky and beach as my base, I found Melbourne a lot to get used to. And the grey skies, I think I honestly had seasonal disorder, whatever that
Seasonal
depression.
affective disorder. Yeah. Oh, I get it every year.
Because I like blue sky to me makes me feel happy and grey sky makes me feel sad, and I live in the city that probably has the most grey sky of any city in Australia.
Oh, you do not move to Melbourne for the weather, that's for sure.
But because it's where my work was and then where I had family, and I've grown to really love it, but I've also had to discover new things to love and food and in winter, like Melbourne comes alive, but it took me a long time to realise that because I would just bunker down and not do anything in winter and just wait till it was over, which if you live in Melbourne is a long time.
Yeah.
So now I've grown to really love it, but it took me a long time. But I was in Adelaide recently and I took my daughter back to Adelaide, and it is now got the best restaurants. It's so easy to get around. It's just beautiful. I've been down there during like fringe time and it comes alive. And so I don't know. I like to just move between all the states.
Yeah. That's a very nice answer. You're not going to upset any of the listeners.
It's like picking, your favourite child. I like them all on different days.
Oh, yeah. And also different times of the year.
Yeah.
I think like Perth summer is
oh my God.
so much fun. But then if you're in Perth during the winter, it's like, I don't know what we do.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
That is true. They haven't worked out winter in Perth yet.
No. What do you think is an item every woman should have in their wardrobe?
So I spend most of my life in activewear. But what do I have in my wardrobe? I have, which again took me a long time to acquire, is a really, really nice winter coat. And I always used to buy cheap stuff in winter and I was frozen to my core. And then one year after living in Melbourne for like a decade, I bought a proper woolen coat and I still wear it another decade on. And when I put it on, like it's fitted and it's I feel like I could be like living in New York or something. Every time I wear it, I'm like, I'm ready to go out on the streets and, and mean business. So maybe like a nice proper tailored coat.
Love that.
Yeah.
And
but
also,
if you actually ask me honestly, I'm most of the time in activewear.
But a nice coat over activewear is also really nice.
Yes.
I love that look.
Yeah.
Like a hoodie under a nice coat.
Again, like as if we ever would have done that growing. And I say we, you're so much younger than me.
Oh, no, but
I never would have gone out.
My grandma would have been mortified.
Nice coat on.
Yeah. Like trackies and Uggies were never for leaving the house.
Oh, no. Now I do drop off in my Ugg boots.
Yeah, same. It's socially acceptable and it's great.
And my pajamas verge on loungewear as well. So sometimes I do school drop off in my pajamas and my Ugg boots.
But I think if you chuck the coat on as well, who knows?
Yeah,
no one's going to know.
You can say anything is fashion anymore.
Absolutely. Now, a makeup tip for live television. Do you have one for us?
Get an amazing makeup artist. Yeah, I've spent so much of my life in a makeup chair and it's my least favourite place to be.
Really?
I cannot sit still. I have a to-do list a mile long and a mind that doesn't stop. And so I was that person in a makeup chair that was like talking like over here and they're like following me around with the makeup brush.
A moving canvas.
It was a moving but I'm so thankful for them that those girls in that makeup room over the 14 years I was on the project, sometimes 5 minutes before we were live to air I would have been absolutely sobbing and they would have had to somehow redo their hour's work in 5 minutes, or I'd be laughing during the show so much I'd have like lashes falling off, or I'd be crying during the show, and they are absolute masters. And I think when you're on live TV every night with the whole you know what it's like because you've been in that position where you turn on the TV and instantly have thoughts on the person you're seeing on the TV. I was aware every night people were sitting there and looking at me and deciding whether they liked what you know, they'd done with my brows or my hair or my outfit and I think I had to surrender to that a long time ago. But I'm forever thankful that I had a team of people that actually knew what they were doing, because if I'd been left to my own devices, I think it would have been a disaster.
Well, you say that, but your makeup looks great. Did you do this yourself?
Oh, today, yes, it looks horrible.
Good. No, it doesn't. I
had a facial last week, which I never have because I never have time. And they did this extraction thing, which I'd never had.
Oh, and that is the worst.
And then I was sitting waiting for my son the other day, and I had half an hour in the car, and then I started noticing all these other, and so I just started hacking my face apart. And now I haven't. I'm like, Carrie, what have you done? It's like I'm 18 again. Like, and so I was looking in the mirror this morning going, oh, you're not ready to go do a podcast that's filmed?
No, you look amazing.
What happened to the days in radio that I first started out where no one saw? They just listened to you. They didn't see you.
I know. I entered at a bad time. Everything's filmed.
Oh, God. It's so exhausting.
What is your biggest oh my God moment in your career?
I mean, I think I've been fortunate that I've had a few, but I think one would have been when I got the call up to work on Rove. So I was doing drive radio for Nova at the time, and I got asked to go audition for the Rove show, and I knew of Rove because our families knew each other from Perth, and they said it was a news spot. And I thought at that time, Sandra Sully used to do like a straight news spot around 10:30, and I thought it was to replace her. And so I went in to do the audition, and I was reading the script like quite seriously because I thought I was there to do a serious news report, and it had these like jokes in it, and I was like, this is so weird. Anyway, I didn't really know anyone, so I didn't have the guts to go, hey, what's up with your script? So I just read it straight. And then I left and I called my manager and I was like, that was so weird. I said, there was like jokes peppered through the news, and because it had sort of serious news, the actual factual news, and then a joke at the end, and then factual news and a joke at the end. Anyway, I got a call that afternoon saying you got the job, and I was so excited but so perplexed as to what the job actually was. I didn't even know what I'd got, but I said yes to it, only to realise it was a spoof, a comedy news segment. But I think that call probably changed my career forever, and that would probably be an oh my God moment. And the other oh my God moment was probably when I had Sam Smith in my house. And Sam Smith I am obsessed with and have loved from when I heard their music, like early days when Michael Gudinski, who was a friend of mine, introduced me to Sam, the music of Sam, and said, you will love Sam. And their music was incredible. And I just like would cry listening to Sam. I just loved Sam. And then one day the radio show had organised for Sam to come and do an interview with me in my house, and I freaked out so much and was so overwhelmed by the fact that Sam was in my house that I hid in the laundry, and then Sam came into the laundry, and then I had Sam in the laundry with me. And I still to this day, when I think back to I've interviewed some amazing people, that was a real, like, I think I said about 1,000 times, oh my God, oh my God. It was an oh my God moment.
I love that. That's so cool. When was that?
I reckon maybe 9 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I feel like Sam was kind of peaking, well, like in the...
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if Sam would do home visits anymore.
Probably not.
Sam's too big for home visits now. But, yeah, Sam's a beautiful, beautiful soul. And I remember doing an interview with them when they were wanting to share with the world that they were wanted to be referred to as them and they, and I did this beautiful interview where I stumbled and stuffed up a few times, and I apologised, and Sam said, do you know what, my mum still gets it wrong sometimes. It's about intent. It's not about accuracy. And the fact that you're even here listening to my story and trying to use my pronouns matters to me more than if you get it right. And I remember it was the most beautiful thing to hear, because all I did was want to get it right, but you know, sometimes you stumble and get things wrong. And so, yeah, I have such a soft spot for Sam.
That's really beautiful. Sam's also definitely got me through some hard times.
Oh, my gosh. That album, The Lonely Hour, listen to it when you're having a lonely hour and you'll just
feel all the feels.
It's so heartbreaking.
I've got a couple more for you. What is your favourite restaurant in Melbourne?
I think it's still Chin Chin after all these years. Yeah. I love food. and there's so many favourite restaurants, but there's something about Chin Chin. As soon as I start eating the food and I eat too much of it, and the set menu will like leave you bursting at the seams, but every flavour, everything, I just love.
Yeah,
love.
delicious. Yeah. What is your guilty pleasure TV show?
I haven't watched – I haven't watched a lot of TV lately. I'm finding it very hard to concentrate watching TV. I don't know what's happened to my brain. I can't get into a show. I can't stick with a show. And I don't know if it's the mindless scrolling or what it is that's done it to my brain, or just that my brain is overloaded. But
probably a combination of both.
It's a long time since I've really got into a show, but I think the two that I loved, which is embarrassing to say, was Sex Life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And also Yellowstone. Two of my absolute favourites.
I haven't
and
done
one
Yellowstone.
of them is just a real
Dan's
oh my
nodding.
God, you've not done Yellowstone?
No.
Okay, so Sex Life is just purely trash, and
But
I
great.
really enjoyed it. Yellowstone is I'm almost envious that you've got it to experience. It's so good.
Okay, I'm definitely going to add it to the list.
Watch it with Hugo. Watch it together. It's the sort of show that a guy and a girl can both like. It's hard to find shows that two of you can like.
It is.
And Beth is I wish I could be Beth. She's one of the main leads in it. She's incredible. And then after you've watched it, go Google her speaking, and she sounds so different. I think she's English and her character is American. And it's just like, you're like, what? How is that the same person? Obviously, because she's acting.
Yeah, but that fascinates me when people nail an accent like that.
And
that
Kevin Costner is just, oh my God, like major crush.
Really?
Oh, it's divine. So hot.
Well, I feel like this, speaking of acting, leads into the final question I have for you. A little birdie told me that you once did a little screen recording for a film.
I did.
What was this?
Well, I got a call up to I got asked to go audition for a Nicolas Cage movie that was being filmed in Melbourne called The Knowing, which I've never actually seen. And I still don't quite know what happened. But I was like, okay. So I rocked up to the audition, and it was in a classroom at a school, I think in like Elwood in Melbourne. And I'd never done an audition in my life. And the scene, I think from memory, was like the world was ending. And Nicolas Cage was my love interest, I think. And I'd lost him, or he died or something. And so I had to be distraught and read these lines. And I I just went full method. I started sobbing. I was on my knees.
Have you studied acting?
So I did do an acting course. It was about 10 weeks when I first moved to Melbourne.
NIDA?
Oh, no. I don't even know if it was certified. It was just a bunch of weirdos like myself, like, role playing. Anyway, and so I ran around this room, and then it ended. And everyone was silent, and they just looked at me, and then the director or the producer or whoever it was like, are you okay? And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm good. And he was like, oh, you look – and I was like, sorry, I just thought of something really like traumatic and hard, and I just got – and they were like, okay. Anyway, I left, and they told me it was really good, and they told my agent it was really good. But then I didn't get the part, and their reasoning was it wouldn't have been believable that I was – because I was in my early 20s or mid-20s at the time, I think, that I could have been Nicolas Cage's love interest, which was a really lovely, polite way of saying she was so bad.
But is that audition tape somewhere?
No, I mean, I hope not. It was so bad. But I have always thought that before I die, I'd like to try acting at some point. I think I've probably got a bit too much expression, a bit too much for acting. And also I think I'd die having to do the retakes over and over again, because all I've ever done is live TV, live radio. So I don't know how I'd go if they were like, okay, for the 400th take, let's try that where you look that way. I think I'd be like, haven't you got it already?
Just thinking about acting gives me anxiety. I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, no, I think I just like the idea of trying everything once in this life. So I think I'd like to try it. Yeah.
Let's take a quick break to talk about today's sponsor. Macromike is Australia's fastest growing health food brand, and for good reason. Their entire range is gluten-free, dairy-free, all natural, and actually tastes incredible. From best-selling almond protein to gut-friendly bake mixes and performance supplements. No matter your goals, they've got you covered. With over 30,000 five-star reviews, 500,000 plus customers worldwide, and collabs like Golden Gay Time by Streets, you know you're getting the best in the game. Use code TMM25 for $25 off your first order at macromike.com.au. It was really lovely to get to know you a bit more. I really enjoyed that. Thank you. But the main reason we are here, and I'm so grateful to have you here to talk about this, is a topic that is close to both of us, very important to both of us, and that is brain cancer. Now, you started up an amazing charity many years ago now, or quite a few years ago now. Can you tell me what inspired that?
So I lost my late husband to brain cancer after a 9-year battle with brain cancer. And I, when I did my Logie speech all those years ago, when I was up for gold, I was thinking about what I could talk about. And I was like thinking of all the things about my career and being a woman in media. And I ran through all these things that mattered to me, but they all just felt like, I don't know, I was like, oh, no one wants to listen to that. And then I was like, what is something, if you had 2 minutes to talk about something important, what is something you'd want to talk about? And I thought, oh, maybe I could try and raise some awareness about brain cancer, because I think until brain cancer enters your life, it's not something you really think about very often or have any capacity to understand the extent to which it changes lives. And I thought, oh, maybe it's worth just kind of letting people know that this is a hideous disease and some of the stats around it, and just raise a bit of awareness. And I almost didn't do that speech. I've spoken about this before. I was talking to one of the guys I worked with at the time of the project and told him what I was planning on doing. And I said, I was thinking about putting a beanie on my head, because Greg used to wear beanies all the time to cover his scars. And I said, I thought maybe I could, if I won, I could hand them out to some people in the room. And he said, and so we sourced, it was like a couple of days before the Logies. And so I was like, where am I going to get like 100 of the same looking beanie from? So I drove out to this factory out miles away that had these camping beanies. And so I bought this box of these beanies, and then I gave them to Brad, the guy at work, and he said, I'll scatter them around if you win under people's chairs quickly, and then you can ask them to put them on. And so it was all just a bit random and then I was like, but if I don't win, then I've bought this box of beanies, and then yours a crown with this box of camping beanies, and it was all just a bit insane. And then even moments before I won, in my head I was like, should I do it or should I not do it? Should I do it or should I not do it? And I almost didn't do it because I think it's a very confronting thing to talk about something that is so personal to you on a large stage like that, and particularly in front of your peers. And, you know, when you work in this kind of industry, you're never sure how people perceive you or feel about you, and you're told there's a lot of jealousy and, that people, on other networks are judging you and all that kind of thing. And so I found it quite a terrifying idea to talk about something so personal in front of these peers. But what ended up happening was those people came on board in the most beautiful way, and they all put their beanies on. And the next morning there was Lisa, and Carl on one station wearing their beanies, and then there was Koshi and Mel, I think it was at the time, on the other station wearing their beanies. And the reaction was so overwhelming, and it just reminded me how we are all in this together, and some of those people have become great friends of mine. But I still to this day think, gosh, I was so close to not doing it. And I'm so glad I did do it. But at the time, my main aim was literally awareness. It wasn't to raise money. And looking back, if it had been a bit more of a premeditated thing, I should have tried to raise money in that moment, because I wasn't expecting people to come on board the way they did, and we could have raised a lot of much needed funds, but it was just about awareness. And so I did it, and then afterwards everyone was like, oh, where should we donate? And I was like, oh no, I wasn't asking for your money. I just wanted you to be aware that it's a thing, and we need to, spend, more money and time, focusing on it as a disease. And then as the months went by, a lot of people were asking me what I was going to do with it. And I felt this overwhelming sense of, I don't know, do I have to do something with it? And what do I want to do something? And at the time, a lot of other brain cancer institutions and groups, had contacted me saying, could I come on board and help their foundation raise awareness? And I didn't want to pick one and not the other because everyone was doing such incredible work at the time. So I don't know. In the end, I just was like, maybe I do need to set up my own foundation and charity. And then my aim was to raise $1 million. And I feel a little bit ashamed. I think that I thought $1 million would make any kind of difference to brain cancer, because it's going to take hundreds of millions of dollars to shift the needle on brain cancer. And I thought $1 million would help. And I realise now $1 million is incredibly helpful. That funds a researcher for several years of their research, which could become the research that finds a cure for brain cancer. But I remember thinking $1 million seemed so huge. And yeah, all these years on, that $1 million has turned in now to $25 million, which is just mind-blowing. And then if you think that's just in the sale of our beanies and donations from people and, runs that we've done in the past. But if you actually look at that value in terms of the grants that's then led on to for our researchers and the government and philanthropic donations, we're probably now close to over $50 million in money into our brain cancer centre, which is a whole nother conversation which we've gone on to develop. It's just been this very organic, unexpected journey that I certainly didn't have a plan for. And every day I'm trying to work out what the next direction is and the next plan. And yeah, it's all been a lot.
It's incredible what you've been doing. And I think it's interesting what you say about feeling ashamed thinking that $1 million was going to do so much. But I think that's exactly why these conversations are so important, because so many people listening would think $1 million surely that does a lot.
I know. And
I don't think people realise the scope, because until you know someone who's been affected by brain cancer, why would that be something you've thought about? It just
no.
And
I mean, as I said, I knew not a single thing about it until that diagnosis, hit my family's world. And I would assume it would be the same for you, that you might have even knew of me, but again, I knew of my story, and that was as much as you knew about brain cancer.
Yeah, unfortunately it's touched me a couple of times now. The first time was my beautiful friend Brooke, who her mum was diagnosed with brain cancer, and it was glioblastoma in 2021. She passed away in 2022. And her name was Nikki.
God, so quick.
And it was brutal. It really impacted everything in her life and her personality. And I think that was, I don't want to speak for Brooke, but one of the most challenging things is because she was already grieving the loss of her mum before she even lost her mum, because she wasn't quite the same. And so the fundraiser that I'm organising is called the Grey Matter Soiree, and Brookie started that in honour of her mum. So she's now done 2 fundraisers, and now we're sort of extending that, which is really beautiful. And I'm really grateful that she's sort of, been willing to pass that on. But yeah, before Nikki's diagnosis, I don't think I feel bad to admit, but I don't think I'd ever really thought about brain cancer because it wasn't something in my circle. And then last year my cousin got diagnosed. So yeah, it's brutal. And I just feel like, I don't know if it's that phenomenon where it's like, if you're shopping for a particular car and then you see the car everywhere.
About it all the time.
I feel like I'm hearing about brain cancer so much, just diagnosis after diagnosis, and it's just brutal and heartbreaking.
I think one of the things that's very hard about brain cancer, which is why advocacy is so tricky, is that tragically 4 out of 5 people will pass away within 5 years of diagnosis. So there are those lucky ones. There are those people that manage to fight for a lifetime. And, I want more and more people like that. But because the stats, and it's a very hard thing to talk about, because when you talk about something, when you're going through it yourself, you don't want to hear stats like that. Those stats aren't helpful to anybody that is going through it, because the only thing that's going to get you through is having hope and positivity, because getting caught up, it's why we used to never Google, it's not helpful. But the reality is the only way we're going to change statistics is if there is more funding and more awareness. And the only way you're going to get more funding and awareness is if we talk about the actual facts of the matter. And so it's a very, very tricky space to be in. And when you're in the middle of fighting brain cancer, not only for the patient but for everybody else in their circle, it is so all-consuming that advocacy is the last thing on your mind because you're just getting through each day. And then for a lot of people, they don't get the result that we'd all hope, which is a lifetime of happiness. It's tragedy. And then in the face of that tragedy, the last thing you feel like doing is talking about the thing that has caused you the most immense pain and talk about something that's caused a lot of people immense pain. And so then advocacy is not something you want to do. And so it's a really, really hard thing. Unlike some other cancers where survival rates are much higher, there's so many beautiful positive stories of hope to talk about, to remind people why it's important to fund and to donate, whereas it's a really, really hard conversation with brain cancer. But the reality is there isn't any cure and the treatments haven't changed. The survival rates haven't changed in 30 years. And I remember being told very early on by researchers, because I had no idea. I had no idea about funding. I had no idea about any of it, and I'm still learning a lot of it. But I remember a researcher saying to me that with, I think it was breast cancer, she was saying at that same period 30 years ago, survival rates were so low. And then we've had decades of funding and awareness about breast cancer. It's incredible. It's incredible what they've done with breast cancer and breast cancer research. And now those survival rates have completely flipped on their head and it's the reverse. So the number of people surviving breast cancer is the reverse to what it was 30 years ago. Now that is phenomenal and we're still losing beautiful people to breast cancer as well, and obviously they still need to do more research to work out those gaps. But that's what I want for brain cancer. I want those stats to flip on their head. And it may take 30 years, it may take 50 years. I'm assuming it'll be long after I've gone. But I would love the idea that if you're sitting in front of a doctor being given a brain cancer diagnosis, it's not a death sentence, that someone can say to you, hey, this is not going to be, this is going to be a tricky path ahead, but here are some really, really effective options that if we can achieve, you are going to go on to have a long, happy life with your partner or your children or, whatever it is you want out of this world. And I don't feel like that's where we're at the moment. And I think it's just really hard to talk about. It's really hard to ask people to advocate for it if they're going through it themselves. It's really hard to talk about if you've lost someone because it brings up a whole lot of pain. It's just really, really complicated. And that's why I'm so thankful for people like yourself who, when a mutual friend of ours said, Olivia runs. And I said, does she? And he said, yes. And he said, but you also know she's been touched by brain cancer herself. And I didn't know. And when I called you, I think it was the quickest yes outside of LD pulling that I've ever had to do this crazy adventure. But I'm so grateful and so thankful because I'm sure it's even hard for you to do it. It's hard for you to talk about it. It's hard for your family. And so I understand that it's not an easy thing to do, and I'm really, really grateful that you're doing it. Like really, really grateful. Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think obviously it's hard to talk about. It's hard to talk about my cousin and what she's going through and then have it alongside those stats. It's really even the video we did launching what we're doing, which was amazing, made me so emotional because, it's just the reality is so heavy. Yeah, it's really hard.
But I do feel for the first time ever that there is hope. And I think this is the thing that I never felt decades ago. And now when I meet with our researchers at the Brain Cancer Centre, and there's people on clinical trials at that Brain Cancer Centre, so that's a centre we've built with all the money we've raised from Carrie's Beanies for brain cancer, where there is the brightest minds in this country working to find a cure. And even they're saying to me, there's hope. And I think that's the difference. Yeah. There is hope now, and there's hope that the future is going to be great for your cousin. And I think that's the thing that we didn't have, and I think that that's the thing we have to hold on to, and that's why I keep putting the pressure on. And I think the more people I meet that are going through it and I look into their faces and there's often times where I think I can't keep selling beanies because only so many beanies people can wear and own in their lifetime, and I can't you know, people that must be tired of hearing about it. And then I see these beautiful souls and I look at people and I think, no, Carrie, you've got to keep going because we have to find a cure so that people like your cousin can go on and have the life they deserve. And I think in a country like ours, you know, that's what she deserves. And I am determined, but I know that
Oh, we got tissues. Thanks, Dan.
But I know it's really hard. Like I know it's really hard. And I know
you.
it's hard. It's hard to know for you what to say and do. It's hard to know how to support your cousin. And I think that's what you said to me on the phone. You were like, I don't know what to do, but if I can run and raise money, I know that's something I can do.
Yeah. I think like, and I've said it on the podcast before, that it is so hard as a loved one to know what to do other than to message them and check in and try and be across where they're at in their treatment and, you know, listen when they're struggling. Because it's a long journey. It's not like it's a couple of weeks of treatment. Like she is about to do her second round of chemo. She's got 12 months of chemo. She's already done radiation. She froze her eggs. Like it's such a process and a journey. And some days she's so positive and feels great. And then other days she's like, why me? Like this is so shit, which is so valid as well. And so, yeah, it's really hard to know where to direct your energy and, you know, pain and want to help them. So I'm so grateful for this opportunity because it feels like this really tangible way to channel my energy into something good and also hopefully make a difference for my cousin, but not just her, for everybody else who's affected by brain cancer. And as we were saying, it's just becoming so much more obvious to me how many people are affected by it and how many people are struggling.
But I think it's also don't dismiss how you feel because I think the problem is when someone you love is going through something painful, your focus is on what does she need, what can you do for her. But this is somebody you love as well and I'm sure you don't ever say that you're struggling or finding it hard because you don't want to make it about yourself or you don't want to, you feel so fortunate that you're okay and that but you also have your own grief. And I think something like doing something like that is a way of also physically putting yourself through some kind of, it's this weird process where it's time to think, but it's also like hurts. And so it's time to let out some of that pain that you feel as well. And I think that you're allowed to also find it hard.
Thank you.
But you are. Like I know you won't ever say that you do find it hard, but you would be finding it hard. Watching somebody you love in pain is horrendous.
It is really horrendous. I think the tricky thing too is like, and I've experienced this with other forms of grief, if you're not the partner of the person going through it or you're not the mother, you're not the closest person to them, you feel this sort of guilt where it's like, well, I'm sort of down the ladder of, I don't know, importance or relationships. And then so you feel this guilt because I'm like, oh, well, I'm her cousin. Like I shouldn't be the one crying every day. Like she's got her parents for that and then her sisters and her partner. And I think there's a lot of guilt and shame that sort of comes with grieving or just going through something challenging.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How do you think that all of the advocacy that you've done for brain cancer has sort of helped you healing from your experiences?
I don't think I think about that very often. I think I think it just fuels me. I think it fuels me to do more because I lived it and I don't want anybody else to have to go through what my late husband went through. And so it just fuels me. It's my drive. And I think I think I can't spend too long thinking about the sadness because I think it's not going to change anything. And so instead I try to channel that into passion and drive and, pressure. I mean, I probably put a lot of pressure on myself, but also pressure on the groups that I need to step up and the money I need and I just use it and channel it that way. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question. I haven't thought about it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I do feel like obviously everybody heals differently, but it's like you've done it in a really selfless way.
I think the reality is no one person's journey through life, journey through loss, journey through grief is the same. And I think you literally cannot walk in somebody else's shoes. And I think you mentioned it before, and I think it's so true. I've had people in my life who've lost someone very close to them suddenly, and their grief journey includes a lot of shock, a lot of trauma, a lot of things. I've had, people in my life similar to me lose people over a long period of time, and you've lost the person you love long before you've lost them. And so that grief journey is different. I think your emotional and geographical presence to a person that you lose changes your grief journey as well, because if you're a long way away geographically, you're not faced with it every single day, the physical loss of somebody's presence, which is different to if there's somebody that's in your life every moment of every day and suddenly they're literally physically not there. And so every single person's journey is different. And I think being kind to yourself and realising that you're not on the same walk as somebody else, and being kind to each other. And even if the way you might have dealt with grief or deal with grief, and you're looking at someone else thinking, gosh, they're dealing in a different way, I wouldn't be doing that. No, that's not, because they're not you. Yeah. And how they're dealing with it is how they need to deal with it. And there's no right or wrong way.
That's really good advice. I do think that we can all get caught up in comparison in all sorts of ways. And I think, grief comparison is a trap, as most comparison is. Yeah. So Carrie's Beanies for brain cancer, when it first started, you said you didn't really know how to raise money or where you were going to channel that money. What did it actually look like as a charity, and how has that changed?
Just a couple of friends trying to find some people that made beanies in Melbourne. I think our first run of beanies was a couple of thousand, and I remember meeting with a guy in a factory, and I'd never produced like a product in my life, and I had no idea what I was doing. To a few years on, we'd sold 250,000 beanies and raised $5 million in 1 hour on live TV. Wow. To an entire, now we have, factories that we have people visiting every single day. We have, a board, and we have an entire brain cancer centre, and we have a network of people, and we have CEOs. And so it's just grown exponentially. But at the base of it, at the core of it, is still the same group of people that were there at the beginning, with the same passion. We've just learned a lot along the way, like a lot. It's been, it is a business, and we've had to make mistakes along the way to learn. So it's been huge.
You said before that a lot of the funds come directly from selling the beanies.
Yeah.
Where else, like you said, you've raised $25 million.
Yeah. So
where does that come from?
So literally a lot. Most of it is from people buying a $29.95 beanie, which is extraordinary when you think about it. It's a lot of beanies. But then there's lots of little arms to it. So if people have lost someone in their community, we've had some incredible like football fundraisers where communities have literally raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, we have some amazing communities in our country, and people in country areas, the generosity is phenomenal. The way people, come together in the face of something incredibly tragic still blows my mind. And so we've had some, different fundraisers go on where they've raised upwards of $500,000 in their local community over a number of years in memory of somebody that they've cared for. We've had people might leave money to us in their wills. We've had, contributions from philanthropic donors. We've raised money through Point to Pinnacle, which is the world's toughest half marathon that happens in Tassie every year. We've been doing that for the last, I think, like maybe 5 or 6 years. And that's where anybody can come along and raise money. And, I think last year we raised, I think it was close to $700,000 just from that one morning walking. And then I did the Great Wall of China last year with a very small 4 of us. And that
looked really hard.
It was one of the most incredible things I've ever been involved in. So Sam, who's the guy that runs my foundation and Brain Cancer Centre, who you've now had the pleasure of meeting, is one of the greatest humans on this planet. He has this insane need to keep physically pushing himself. I don't have that same need, but somehow he takes me on those journeys. I'd quite happily, I used to say to him all the time, so could we do a thing where we sit around and drink coffee to raise money and just
that sounds good to me.
And he's like, no. So what I was thinking is I've Googled the worst marathons in the world. I'm like, why would you want us to do that? And then when he came to me with the idea of the Big Five, which is running in South Africa with the Big Five. So there's, the elephants and I get confused. I think it's buffalo and
it's elephants, African buffalo, leopards, rhinos and lions.
Okay.
Yeah. How could we forget the lions?
Don't worry about the lions. They're just all going to make us run faster. When he said that, it resonated because it was the Big Five, and 5 is such a significant number in the brain cancer space. 5% is the survival rate, and 5 years is often the diagnosis lifespan of people with brain cancer. That 5 is a very significant number. And so I said, and so it sort of piqued my interest. But again, it involves training, which is a hard thing to do when you've got a family and work and life and you're old like I am. And my body did not like doing the Great Wall of China. My hips, I think from having 3 kids and obviously the training up and down hills and steps to prepare us for being on the Great Wall was not, my body didn't like that. In fact, I watch you do your running and your running videos, and you were born to run.
Oh, no, I don't think I was.
Oh, you look like it's effortless. When I do it, like you look like a gazelle. When I do it, it's just
very
like
nice.
this like
you haven't seen me in
baby
person.
giraffe / elephant, like just kind of stomping along. Like I run like a duck from all my years of dancing. And it's really hard for me to do. My body doesn't like it. It doesn't get any easier. I'm the last of any group that I'm with to cross the line. People often say to me, what time do you plan on doing it in? I don't even know how long it takes me to run a kilometre, how long it takes me to run 10. I don't even know the time I did the Great Wall of China in, because it is not about hitting any measure of success. For me, it's about completion. I just want to do it and complete it and achieve it, but it's not about doing it in a certain time. And so I don't even really run with like a Garmin or I don't know any of my stats. I don't know my heart rate. I don't know anything. I just get out there and do it. And I sometimes have to stop along the way, and it's very hard for me to do. But he encourages me to step out of my comfort zone. I think going through a physical pain is some weird fucked up thing that my brain feels like then, because I've not had to go through the physical pain of cancer like that, then I deserve to sit in the discomfort a bit. Like it's this weird, I don't know what it is, but I think it's really good for my mind as well, and I've got a very busy mind, and I get very bored running. That's why I could never do the full marathon. It's too long in my brain on my own.
It's a long time.
It's too long. And I find it boring to run because I can't listen to podcasts or listen to music and stuff. But even then I'm like, oh, can this stop? So none of it's an enjoyable experience for me. It's not like I'm this athlete that gets a rush out of it. It's not like that at all. It's something that I do begrudgingly, but my mantra in my head is, if I can, I should, and I can do it. Doesn't mean I do it well, but I can do it. And when Sam said to me, I would really like to do this, and he said, and I said, Sam, there's only so many times people want to donate, and there's only so many times people want to watch you do some stupid athletic thing, and I get quite the self-talk can be quite negative, but something each time makes me go, just do it, Carrie. Just keep doing it. And if people want to jump on board and support, they will. And yet they do, and they keep showing up. And Australians are amazing. And I think this year, I wanted to do it with a group of people, and a group of people, some who had been touched by brain cancer because they then would understand the why, but also some people that hadn't been touched by brain cancer so that they would understand then the why, to then tell their community and their group of people that might not have any understanding of it, why it is so tragic, why it's so underfunded, why, unless we continue to raise money, we are not going to find a cure, and what it's like to actually sit in front of a doctor and have a doctor say to you, you have brain cancer. It is like nothing else. And I think unless you've been touched by it, it's hard to understand. So our group that we're doing it with is a real eclectic, random group of the most beautiful souls already. And I'm so excited to be meeting these people and getting to know these people, because most of them I don't know. Like, you know yourself, I didn't know you at all. And so it's meeting different people. And I think the connection that we are making amongst, you know, the group, even going through this ourselves, I think is a really lovely thing. And I think in life, the older we get, connection's incredibly important and purpose is important. So yeah, it's going to be really hard, but I'm really proud and I'm really happy that I have someone in my circle like Sam who keeps pushing me to try new things and do new things. And and that's why we're here trying to take on a really hard thing. And I did tell everybody that I don't know if I told you this, but everybody that I called to ask. So one thing, a bit like childbirth, one thing I do is I don't research the thing that I'm about to go do, because they say knowledge is power, not in my head.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. Ignorance is bliss. And I look at I would never have had a child, I think, if I realised now what was involved. And so I went into when I had my son, I didn't really know about any of it. And it's probably a good thing, because I literally nearly died after giving birth to him. And I'm so glad I didn't know all those things before I went ahead and did it. It's why it took me so long to then have the children. But a bit like that with this marathon, I just knew it was in South Africa through a safari park, and I've been on a safari and it was flat from what I remember. And so I told everybody who said to me, a lot of the people coming have never run. They're like, oh, I'm not a runner. And I'm like, it's honestly, it'll be fine. It's flat. You can just plod along.
It is not flat.
I've now discovered it is so not flat, and it is really hard. And I'm sorry. Again, I couldn't even tell you about the elevation. I couldn't tell you about any of it. I figure I'll discover it when I'm running it. And
You'll
that's my mentality.
climb that hill when you get there.
Exactly.
Physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Yeah, the elevation freaked me out when I saw that. But I also agree. I think ignorance is bliss somewhat. I don't want to know too much. I don't want to know exactly when the hills are going to hit us, because I'll just be in my head about it. So we're just...
And it's really hard to understand, but there's something that happens when you're a part of, and anyone that's done an adventure or a run with a group of people and a group of strangers will tell you there's something that takes over, and it's like a energy that you can't explain. And when we did the Great Wall of China, so the communities we ran through, because everyone comes out in force, and we were giving out these beautiful little bracelets in honour of Donna, who we were running for, who had lost her life to brain cancer, and seeing these little kids run up, and we were giving these little kids in China, who I'll never see again, these little bracelets to carry on the legacy of someone back in Australia who they'll never have met, was so incredibly overwhelmingly emotional. And we didn't speak each other's language, but there was this connection. And then you'd run past people and they would read, you know, the name on your top, or you'd see the name on their top and you'd ask about somebody they were running for. And then you'd end up in a conversation with someone you'd never met before, and you'd run alongside for a K or two, and then they'd go off into the distance. You might see them at the finish line and they were emotional and you're emotional, and you'd be like, we did it, you know. But it's this weird connection, and the Ks stopped becoming important until, for the last 5Ks, for me, the Ks became very important, because I didn't think I was going to complete it, and I was vomiting and I was a mess. I'm sure you won't be like that, but I hadn't trained hard
I watched
enough.
this video just the other day, I think on Sam's page.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got emotional watching it, because it
got very tough towards the end. But yeah, the Ks stop being important, and it becomes about this bonded experience you have. And I think you'll find it incredibly special. And I think that you'll complete it. You'll have no trouble. You'll absolutely smash it in. I can see your willpower and your motivation. I've even seen you training for it, and you're so disciplined. Like I'm so random. Like I run at random times, because with the kids and work, I can't sort of seem to get any schedule. And I look at you and I think, oh my God, like everything from even what you eat before you run. I'm like, I wish I had the ability to know what I needed to fuel my body. And sometimes it's a banana I've grabbed or whatever. And halfway through my run, I'm like, I think I need one of those gel things that people, and I don't have them with me. And I'm like, that's how, I'm a bit of a mess.
But I think it's great. Like I think what you have just shared about, you know, that you don't wear a watch and you don't really run, and I think that will be so inspiring for people, because I think some people stop themselves from doing something like this because they're like, oh, that's just not me. That's not a me thing.
Yeah.
But I think to be able to challenge yourself to do something that is so far out of your comfort zone is really inspiring.
So even though I've done runs before, I'm not a runner, and I find it really, really hard. And even though I did the Great Wall, which was 21 kilometres last year, when I came now to start training for this one, I hadn't run in months. And so literally, so people in our group are doing training programs, right? And they're talking about running in this zone 2. I don't even know what that means. So my training program, the only way in my head I committed to it was, I'm just going to run an extra kilometre each week, right? Now this is not how anyone should learn to run, or I'm sure, or do a half marathon training program or a marathon training program. But my brain, I drew up with pencil, and it's got box week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. And I did it 15 weeks out from when we're going to do this. And so I started at 4Ks or something. And I've just been adding on a K a week.
So what are you up to?
So my run on the weekend was 10.5 Ks, and I nearly died.
Oh, no.
I honestly, I can't, it's like my brain gets to a certain barrier. I'm like, I can't go any further. And I have to stop quite a bit and stuff, but that's as good as it gets. And I'll do one long run a week and one shorter run. And then life gets in the way, and sometimes I'll do a PT session or something. But also my body, like having had 3 kids, every part hurts. My hips, I get really bad back problems and glute. Like I'm not going to bore, no one cares. But it's just, if you're watching this and you're thinking I could never do something like this, you literally can, and you don't need to have a training I'm sure trainers would say this is not great advice, but I don't have a training program and I don't have any of that. I'm just giving it a crack. And I think it's just fun to give life a crack.
I think that's so cool and very motivating and inspirational. I do think too, as you were talking about like sort of collating this group of people that are going to be involved, our group chat, you know, having this like new community of strangers where I haven't met most of them, but I know we will soon, and that's really exciting. There's something so reassuring about doing something like this where like it restores your faith in humanity. And I think that is one of the best things for me over the years, any kind of charity stuff that I have done. I think the contrast between doing a job where you can get criticized so much online and people tell you how shit you are and how much they hate you, and then you spend time with these humans who
Is that the internet? Oh, God.
It's so weird.
I've only ever had positive experiences.
Where you get like, you just think that people must be so vile, and then you meet all of these people who just want to do something good, and you're connected by often pain, but then it brings about this community and this really beautiful feeling, and you're like, oh wow, there are so many good humans and who are inherently just kind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's so special and makes me emotional even just thinking about like when we are there and what that is going to look like.
Yeah, it's we shed so many tears last year, and the 4 of us barely knew each other before, and we came out of it so connected and so bonded, because you can't help, once you've been through a journey like that, feel like that. But I do have to apologise for the group WhatsApp, because I'm terrible at communicating. My intention is so good, and I used to be such a great communicator. I'm so overwhelmed by the level of information, the emails, the text messages, the WhatsApp groups that are in my world, that I'm so bad at getting back to messages, and I'm so bad at getting back to calls. And I think I want to, and then I think, don't call the person now because you've only got a minute to talk, and this will be a half an hour conversation. Then 2 weeks later, I'm like, oh my God, I still haven't called them back. And then I call them and they're like, you're alive. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm the worst friend. And so when Sam again from my foundation set up this WhatsApp, I said, oh, I don't think people want another WhatsApp, Sam. I think no one can deal with another WhatsApp. And I noticed that there's more active members of the WhatsApp, and some, I think Tommy from my radio show hasn't even realised there is a WhatsApp.
But definitely haven't seen
But I think
the
it
message.
serves different purposes for different people. But when I do click back on and read back some of the messages, and, you know, it's one of the most depressing WhatsApps, because it's just people talking about all the ways their body is breaking down.
All of the injuries.
But it's the same thing. I'm like, I haven't even met some of the people on this WhatsApp. who are doing this run, who I've known of for years within, the media and stuff. I've never even met, and already my heart swells when I see their comments and I see, that they've been up all night, with their kids, but then they've gone for a run this morning. I'm like, that's what it's all about. We're all just giving it a crack and having a go,
Now, for anyone who's listening, and I'm sure there are people listening who are affected by brain cancer, and if it's not brain cancer, something similar and awful, is there some advice that you can give to them?
I don't know. I don't give out advice because I don't think, as I said before, I think everybody's journey is your own journey, and the only thing I think often is you never know what's going on in somebody else's life. And I think whether you see someone smiling on TV or you see someone looking like they've got it all together on Instagram, or you even know someone in your life who is not well and they seem to be having a good day, you never know what's happening in that person's world. And I think our outward position, the way we put ourselves into the world, is not necessarily how we're all feeling. And I said, so I believe we all have to just don't make assumptions about how other people are walking through this world, and be open-minded and be curious and be kind, and don't assume because somebody looks like they're happy, they're happy. Don't assume that if they're having a sad day, every day is a sad day. I think it's really tricky when you have someone in your life who's sick, knowing how to communicate, because sometimes that person's having a shit time and doesn't want to reach out. I think it's like anything. It's even when you're in a bad way mentally, if you've got mental illness or anxiety or depression or anything. I think sometimes you retreat when things are tough. Sometimes you don't want to talk about it when things are good because you're having a window where things are good and you're like, actually, I don't, and someone calls and they're like, how are you going? You're like, I'm fine. And you get quite defensive because you're like, I'm good. And they're thinking, well, hang on, yesterday you weren't good, so I'm just checking in, but today you're having a good day, so you don't want to have the conversation about how you were not good yesterday. I think it's so hard. It's so complicated. And all I'd say is just assume the best in people. Don't assume that the way they're presenting necessarily is how they're feeling, and just treat people gently and with kindness.
That's really beautiful. Thank you. Now, we always finish our episodes with a segment called Oranges and Lemons.
Mm-hmm.
So your orange, it might be from today or the last few days, is something positive,
mm-hmm.
and then your lemon is something a bit more sour and negative.
So my lemon would be genuinely a physical thing. So I explained before how I have bad feet. I have bunions. They literally make running quite painful. But I also, just before I started my running journey, I had a couple of champagnes and ran up some stairs and stubbed my toe so bad that I thought I'd broken it, but I've clearly done a lot of damage. And I only have myself to blame for that. But running is hurting me a lot, and I've just been ignoring it. And the last few days I haven't been able to run because it is hurting me so much that I can't even get into that position of running. It'll be fine. It always is. But my lemon is that my training's a bit out, and yes, I'm aware that with not many weeks to go, I can't afford to spend a week dealing with an injury, and an injury that's partly self-inflicted from wearing heels and stubbing my toe. So I'm not complaining at all, but my lemon would be that this week I'm not able to do any of that. But my orange would be that I'm on holidays from work this week, and I get to do school pickup this afternoon and see my beautiful kids, which is such a simple thing, but because I do radio in the afternoons, I don't do pickup. And there is nothing better in this world than seeing their beautiful faces come through those school gates, and they are the best thing ever in this entire universe.
Oh, that's really beautiful.
And that's my orange for today.
Oh, you're so cute. You're going to make me cry again.
Nah, it's the best.
Oh, that's so
they
nice.
They are the best, and it's really simple things like that I just love.
Yeah. It is always the simple things. I think I literally did a post about that on the weekend. It's, whatever you're doing for work, I think a lot of the time people would think that, you know, the highlights for you would be like going to the Logies or, you know, the glamorous stuff, but it's like the little simple, meaningful things that are
I think
the most
it's
special.
I've changed a lot. So I think I've spent a lot of my life running. I don't mean physically running. I mean running away from my brain and my thoughts and pain and stuff. But it means I have always had a very busy life, a very full life. I run from the next thing to the next thing, and I flit about, and a very active life. And something's changed in me, and particularly on the weekends when I'm with the kids, we don't do anywhere near as much as I used to do. And I just cook, and we sit around and we draw and read and just lay about a bit. And I say no more than I say yes to going to do things. And that doesn't mean I'm still not social and do lots of those things. But it's weird, but everything has slowed down a lot for me. And the happiness that has brought me versus having a full life of activity has been life-changing. And I think that the older I get, you know, look, I'm going to be at 18 just sitting on a couch, I guess. Just sitting on a couch with my kids and my grandkids doing nothing looks like that's my future. But
That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, it does sound pretty good. And I feel very lucky that I'm here, and particularly talking about what we're talking about. I feel very fortunate that we're alive, able to be having this conversation, able to be going for a run, and I'm able to go pick my kids up from school this afternoon, and I'm forever grateful, and that is my orange.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. My lemon would be similarly physical issues. I've had a bad hip for the past couple of weeks, which makes me feel really old. There's something about, I think, back injuries and hip injuries where instantly like
Baby, you
it
are
ages
not
you 50
old.
years.
Come chat to me in 10 years' time.
But yeah, I've had this weird niggle in my hip. But I went for a run this morning and it didn't hurt. So that's my orange.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is so nice. I think like it's funny that you say that watching my videos, it's like, oh, it's so easy. It's not. And I think maybe I need to share more about some of the hectic thoughts that go through my mind on a run. Because sometimes I'm like, I feel good, I feel strong. And then the next minute I'm like, you should stop. You can't do this. Like you can't run. What are you trying to do?
So
like,
that's interesting. Yes,
yeah.
I would never think. I just
so
thought
much
your body
self-talk.
naturally feels quite good running.
No, definitely not. It's a journey. Yeah. But some days I will have a good run. Like this morning I just felt good. And that's the one that will like stick with me for the next one when I'm struggling. Like I keep that in the bank to refer back to and be like, no, you can do it. Like you did it. You know, there's so much self-talk that happens.
So what are
the
you
whole
up
time.
to now? So you're going to do the full marathon?
I am, yeah.
That's 42 Ks, and it's how many weeks from now? Like
7.5.
7.5. How many Ks have you done? What's the most you've done now?
24.
Oh my God, that's so much. That's more than I will have to do full stop. And how long does that take you?
I did that on the weekend and it was 2 hours and 15 minutes, I think.
What do you think about for those 2 hours?
Well, Hugo ran with me. So the week before he ran the first 9 kilometres with me. I did 20 kilometres. And then the second 11, the rest of the run, I listened to podcasts and music, but I got in my head a lot. So then I flipped it this week. I said, can you, because he's not running those kind of distances at the moment. I said, I'm going to do the first 12 by myself, listen to a potty, and then meet me at the 12K mark, and then we just chat. So
can you talk and run?
I try to run at a pace where it's like that conversational pace.
I say to people that want to run with me, you're going to have to do it's going to be a one-way conversation because I can't physically, cardio-wise, I'm like, yeah. And so then I'm dying.
That's what zone 2 is meant to be, this conversational pace. But
is that what zone 2 is?
But I've not been, at school was, you know, the kid that would be like, oh no, I've got a sore ankle. Like I can't possibly run. I hated it. Like I've sort of trained myself to like it.
Were you fit when you were doing all your modelling and everything? Or you just naturally
I started running
fit?
for the wrong reasons. Like I started running because my agency was like, this will help you lose weight.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a toxic thing at the beginning, and then it became the thing that mentally I don't know how I would have coped without it. Yeah.
Wow. So then how do you now run without thinking about what's happening for you physically? Like if it began as a physical thing, how have you changed that?
I really have to not think about like calories burned or, you know, running for a set amount of time because it's going to do that for me. It's like fueling my body properly to a point where I feel like I'm stronger, I'm getting fitter, maybe I'm getting faster, maybe I can run for longer. So focusing on goals that are not physically or aesthetically driven. It's like about being strong, and whether that is physical or mental.
Yeah.
And feeling good on a run rather than like, you know, if you're starving yourself, you can't possibly run that far.
Of course.
It's just literally impossible and you will fall into a heap. So it's like getting my fueling right and then feeling, mentally and physically strong. That's the purpose.
Is it a constant battle? Like, can you ever, are you the same person you were then, you've just got coping mechanisms, or have you worked through a whole lot of that stuff and now you approach mentally and life and your body and all of that completely differently?
That's a really good question. Everyone's experience with eating disorder stuff is different. So I can't speak for everyone, but for me, I think that part of my brain is always there.
Yeah.
There's an eating disorder voice.
Yeah.
And sometimes she's a bit louder than others, but it's the way that I act. So whether or not I will act on those thoughts. So,
right.
You know, if it's going to be like, maybe you should skip that meal and then run for longer today, or whatever that thought is. And it's usually if I've got a lot of stress going on, it's like a coping
like
mechanism.
A control thing or something.
Yeah, but it's like it's a really shitty coping mechanism. And I know that. I know it doesn't work. It's not effective. So I have to sort of override that.
So I've obviously watched you online closer now that we've got to know each other and seen through your Instagram, Hugo. How much has having that positive influence on your life changed how you feel about yourself? And even the idea that you like, it's so beautiful that he just come and run with you for the last bit. Like,
he's a gem.
Yeah. How does that change how you feel about yourself, or is that all got to be yourself that changes?
I think it's got to be in you. I got myself to a really good place before I met Hugo.
Right.
He just reinforces and helps me to pull myself out of a shitty headspace when I'm in it.
Yeah.
And I think I do the same for him. It's just like having a partner who is your biggest supporter is quite foreign to me, but very nice.
Yeah, he seems beautiful. Yeah. I look forward to meeting him one day.
Yeah, I'm excited for you guys.
We should have dragged him on the run as well.
Well, he said, should I come and support you guys? But I don't know. That's a whole other logistical thing. But thank you.
I was going to say thank you for doing it. I appreciate it so much. I know it's so hard to ask for money. I've spent a good decade trying to ask people to donate and support, and it's so hard, and you know this even if you've done a chocolate fundraiser at school. It is so hard to ask people, especially at the moment where times are tough. And I've been trying to say to people, and for the last few years we've done a thing called Everybody's Got a $5. Even just $5 collectively, when you've got hundreds of thousands of people giving $5, can make such a difference. So if that's all you've got, that is okay too. You know, some people have a lot more, some people don't. And if you don't have the money, but you're just going to get behind and support it emotionally, that's also so valuable. And so thank you to people watching, but thank you to you, because I know it takes guts and it's hard to ask people for money as well. And I appreciate you doing it for Carrie's Beanies for Brain Cancer.
Thank you for everything you're doing and for getting me involved and for coming on the potty. I've loved talking to you. I think we went way over time because I could just keep talking to you forever. But thank you so much, Carrie. You're the best. Thank you so much for listening to Tell Me More. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave us a review, share it with your friends, and follow or subscribe to the podcast. Your help in growing this community would mean so much to me.